everybody, it's Candy Nichols, alias Cutlass Candi, and I'm here from Candy's Treasure Chest, and today I'm going to open up the treasure chest with something really special. I have been wanting to do a interview with Captain Carl Fismer for a long time, and Carl has given me the opportunity today, after working really diligently to get us on a split screen video, and here we are. So want to welcome Carl today. Carl is renowned treasure hunter with over 30 years in the treasure search and salvage industry. Got great experience. He's worked over 300 shipwrecks in the U.S., Bahamas, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Central and South America. And, you know, Carl has been around for a long time. He's worked with some of the best in the industry, to include, you know, Art McKee, Jack Haskins, Mel Fisher, just to name a few. And he's not only a wonderful treasure hunter, but he's a TV star, and he's a great writer and a wonderful businessman. Welcome, Carl Fizz.
Oh, Candy, thanks. That just the way we rehearsed it. Good going. That was
Right.
wonderful.
Hey, cheers to you, buddy.
and back at you, girl.
Amen. All right. You know, Carl, that's good.
You got that right.
That's right. You know, one of the things that I really like about you, Carl, is, you know, you're so easy to talk to. You got a great personality, just full of humor, and you know, to me, you're the epitome of a real pirate. When I was doing a little studying of history on you, I found out we had something in common, which was kind of interesting. When I was a little girl, and I was, you know, about 6, I was raised down in the Shenandoah Valley. We had a second home in Duck, North Carolina, you know, near Nags Head and Kitty Hawk. And I would go home and sell seeds to raise money so that I could take my money on vacation and go to the gift stores down on the coast and listen to the pirate in this one particular gift store so I could buy the fake treasure coins. And I understood in an interview that I saw that you sold seeds too. Tell me about that and how you started the hunt because of that.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I was, I'm going to guess it must have been about 1947. And I was just, I was a little kid then. And of course, the war was over, but I was a comic book nut. And on the back of almost every comic book in those days, it said, the whole page, "Hey kids, sell flower seeds, win prizes." And I thought, great. And I was looking through their prizes, and there was a Voight was making the old round scuba mask. You remember those?
Absolutely.
And I said the first thing I ever got in the mail to me was a box full of flower seeds, and I beat the bushes all over the neighborhood. My dad had recently died, and I suspected everybody in the neighborhood felt sorry for me, so they bought a lot of flower seeds. And that was a tough time because, you know, my mother was a woman alone with 2 kids in the 40s, and there were no two ways about it. You had to be tough. But I didn't know we was dirt poor. You know, hell, when they got hungry, we ate. In 1948, it was such a cold winter that my mom and my sister and I lived in the kitchen. The only place in the house there was heat. I thought of it as an adventure, and my mom and my sister complained a lot, but that's okay. I let it go. And anyway, I sold them flower seeds and sent them their money. And the next thing I ever got in the mail was one of them old Voight round scuba masks. I tore that box apart. I ran to the bathroom. I started filling the tub, and I jumped in, and I did everything. I sank pirate ships in the bathtub. I salvaged Spanish galleons. We did good.
Oh, wow. That's what I have a love for, is the Spanish galleons. Listening to the old history of Nag's Head in particular, as a child, it
Oh yeah.
stirred my imagination. And uh, I guess at that point I was developing a relationship already with the pirates, because I couldn't wait to get back to the island and go and listen to the stories at such a young age. You know, um, Part of that we talked about was relationship building, and in this industry, it can be very difficult because everybody's out there after the specific treasure. And what I wanted to kind of kick this thing off with was the fact that a lot of people know uh, of your history and what you've done, but the specific relationships that you had with Art McKee, the grandfather of treasure diving, was really special to you, and the 1733 fleet. I'd like for you to elaborate, particularly, let's start off with that. I think that's a really a sound place to start.
Well, that's good. But I have to make one small correction on what you just said there, because the Art McKee spent, his last days was in June of 1980 in the hospital up in Homestead. But I talked to him on the phone every day. And the last day I talked to him, I said, Art, there's an article in the newspaper here in the Keys. It says you're the father of modern day treasure hunting. And he thought for a second, and he said, well, that's okay as long as they don't call me the grandfather.
Oh.
Like you just called him the grandfather.
I did. Oh,
that's all right.
thank you.
I have influence. He forgives you.
He forgives me. Thank you.
Yeah. And, but he'd ask us, I was working at the time with Ronnie Nelson, and he'd ask us, well, where were you today on the Capitana? And you just have to tell him what grass patch you were around, and he knew exactly where you were. And
wow.
If he said, why don't you try moving about 150 feet to the east, well, that's what we would do. And sure enough, we found some missing pieces of the Capitana, but it's outside the 3-mile limit. And Art had a place he called the Black Ledge. And Ronnie Nelson and I followed our trains. We got on the Black Ledge. And unfortunately, that put us inside the 3-mile limit. So you had to be very careful because of the Marine Patrol in the state of Florida and all the rules, laws, regulations, ordinances, and just made up stuff you had to be careful of. But anyway, we went to the Black Ledge. I metal detected, it must have been like 200 yards long, and I'm in there metal detecting. Now we got this one area where I got a lot of hits. We put the blower down on the boat, we opened it up, and there's a whole bunch of deck timbers in there.
Mm.
Anyhow, Ronnie got scared they'd take his boat away. We never went back. And to my knowledge, those deck timbers and anything around them are still sitting there. There's supposed to be some missing boxes of silver coins. Jack had research on it. Bob Weller used to talk about it. And I'd say that's an excellent location to where they might be. But, my name's on the bad list, and I won't do anything anymore in the Keys. I don't dare chance it. But I would give this site to somebody else if they wanted to go take a look.
Ooh.
deck timbers.
Deck
Anyway,
timber.
yeah. So anyway, the day after I talked to Art on the phone, he said, I'll be there tomorrow and I'm going with you guys. Well, good, great. Who else would you want to go with you?
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
unfortunately, they stopped for breakfast at Denny's restaurant and Homestead, and that was it. Art had another heart attack, and that was the last one. And I sat with him so many days and nights. I don't know if you looked at my book called Uncharted Waters, but I tell the story about I tried for 6 years all by myself, just a boat, a motor, me, and a metal detector. And came up with some of the stupidest ideas in the Gulf of Mexico. And by the way, the Gulf of Mexico is a good place to look. Most people think about treasure on the Atlantic side because when the fleets left Havana, they went up that way. I inherited Jack Haskins' uh, research. I've got over 200,000 pages. I've got 40, you know, them computer boxes that you got paper, 42 of those full of information, notebooks. Jack made notes on everything in the restaurant, those paper plates where they set your food. He's got treasure maps drawn on
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
I still haven't gone through it, but when I sat with Art McKee, we used to meet at Windley Key, which was only about maybe a mile, half a mile from Art's castle, just over the next bridge to Windley Key. And Art drew many maps. So did Jack. So do I now. But
yeah, many maps.
And I should have told Art when he was drawing those maps for me. I should have said, Art, would you sign that, please? But I didn't do it. But today, when I'm drawing maps for guys, they do. They ask me. They say, "Would you sign this, Fizz?" Yeah. So, Lord, if I'd just asked him to sign those, who knows what they do at auction? But in any case,
that's right.
Yeah, the memories are there, and
what's some of your fondest what's some of your fondest memories that you have, or memory that you have of working that 1733 fleet?
Wow, a lot. What Ronnie Nelson gave it up. He got a regular job, and that's okay because you know that happens sometimes. But Ronnie and I, we were doing all right on the 30. We got found a gold ring and a clump of pillar dollars, and we were doing mediocre, I guess you'd call it. But Ronnie went to work. But then here's the turning point of my life was D.L. Cheney asked me to work with him on his boat was named the research vessel WASP, W-A-S-P, named for the aircraft carrier in World War II that was torpedoed and sank by the Japanese. Johnny Barrier was half owners, and Johnny was on the WASP when it got torpedoed. Johnny Barrier had to tread water for 17 hours before they came and picked him up. And anyway, I get into World War II stories, and maybe I get carried away, but nobody has more respect for the greatest generation than I do. The World War II vets, and to think he wanted to name that treasure boat the research vessel WASP, which we did. D.L. Cheney asked me, he said, Carl, would you like to start working with us? Now, mind you, he had D.L. Cheney, Johnny Barrier, and Jack Haskins. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me?
You're sitting pretty.
Yeah, this was shortly after Art passed away. And, you know, oh man, this is bad. This is terrible. But yes, I jumped right on it. No pun intended, but I did. But and Jack Haskins didn't like me at first. Jack's motto, he told D.L. Cheney, he said, don't let him on here. You're only going to train the competition. That was Jack's, and in a way, he had a good point. He said that a lot. But little did he know that he was going to be stuck with me for 32 years.
32 years.
I fixed him good. Yeah. Anyway, I got to work with DL 1980, 81, and 82 is when DL had 2 open heart surgeries. And back in the early 80s, there was not routine. It was serious. You know, today they got that heart surgery down. You can run in after lunch and be done by dinner time. But
back diving in a week.
yeah, that's right. So DL, anyhow, with 1982 is when we had the lease. It was just us working the cabin site, and we were doing good. We started, and we were picking up maybe 50, 60 coins a day on the cabin site. And the Marine Patrol would be driving past us every day. And then we came up with the gold, 5 gold coins and 3 gold toothpicks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You wouldn't happen to have any of that pretty little treasure laying around there anywhere.
Well, the problem was the next day we got arrested for illegally diving on a shipwreck.
Oh, of course.
Now, why didn't they arrest us when we was picking up all those silver coins? I don't know, but when we got the gold ones, that was it. DL, we were under arrest, but we didn't go to jail. So I was living in the Keys, and I drove down home thinking we're out of business till to straighten it out. Judge King wrote a 96-page injunction about these guys are legal, leave them alone, don't mess with them, and DL got a copy the next day. I took off to drive back up to Sebastian from Key Largo, but DL went out anyway, and sure enough, they come back and arrested him again. And he held up, he said, Judge King and they said, we're familiar with that. And DL, stunned, he said, well, then you know this isn't right. And the cop said, what can we do? We're only pawns. Which reminded me of the Hitler days when, you know, we was only following orders when we killed all those people. But and now here's D.L. Cheney. He was a Korean War vet, and they handcuffed it. They waited till 5 minutes till 5 to arrest him, so he couldn't post bail. He had to spend the night in jail. Now he was gung-ho, all American. God bless America. We're all on the same team here. Mom's apple pie, and one time I said to him, "How did you live so long and be so dumb?" Anyway, I started telling him about what bureaucrats were. But he thought, hey, we're everybody. Well, everybody working the fleet, yeah, we were. It was just great. In 1980, 81, 82. But in 82, the first gold and big problems. And anyway, there was another treasure hunter named Gene Evans that called me up that night. And he said, Fizz, they got DL in jail. He's having a heart attack. and the cops are laughing at him because they think he's faking it, trying 2 open heart surgeries. Anyway, a short time later, he went in the hospital. He was in intensive care, and then he died in there. So I just cannot tell you how bitter I am and always will be about all the stuff. And I could use a lot stronger words, but it'd probably be better to go on back and talk about the 1733 fleet now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, talking about the 1733 fleet, you got any treasure artifacts laying around there that you might want to show off?
I've got a few things here. All my 1733, I've got one thing, my favorite artifact from the 17th, my favorite artifact I ever got.
Oh.
That is called a reliquary. And a reliquary is a container that for
Hold
a
it up
relic.
there. Hold it up there again.
Wait a minute, and see this, and even the lid still works on it, but they had a mica top that or glass that broke. Now what's in this reliquary? 2 hand-carved rosewood crosses.
Hold it up there a little higher,
Yeah,
Fizz.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, there you go. Wow.
Inlaid with 22 karat gold. I have 2 of these. Here's the other cross, hand-carved rosewood inlaid with 22 karat. Now, you see right where the crossbars cross? Let me get it closer. There's 2 little slivers of wood inlaid in there. Can you see them?
Yeah.
Yes, well, that is from the cross of a saint or a martyr from 2,000 years ago.
Wow. Hold that box up one more time.
Yes, I'll be happy to.
Oh, yeah, look at the beautiful.
Very fancy. Now it was gold layered when I picked it up, but unfortunately it all peeled off. Now, this is such but the lid still works. You see that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I have a friend that does preservation work, and when I get something very special like this, I mean, I could do it. I don't trust myself. I take it to him. He lives in St. Augustine. I don't want to say his name, but anybody that has an artifact they're really worried about, this is the guy to take care of it. I've known him for 35 years, and he's done good. Anyway, that's off the 1733 fleet. Reliquary, D.L. Cheney got a silver reliquary, but it was broke open, and whatever the relic was gone. The relic.
You were lucky. You had 2.
Yes, that's right. And 4 little slivers of wood from a cross of a saint or a martyr. And keep in mind, back in those days, the Middle East, the territory, the area, they didn't have trees. They don't have them today. It's all desert. And logs were excessively valuable. So whenever they would let when St. Peter was crucified, he said, I don't deserve to die like Christ, crucify me upside down. And they did. But after he was dead, just to quell the riot, the Romans let the people cut his cross up and distribute it to the faithful. Otherwise, they might have had a riot, but crosses were reused back then. I mean, the lumber was at a premium. So whenever you see them little slivers, the Romans are pretty smart. To make sure there wasn't a riot, a bloody riot, they'd give them the cross after they'd already killed the martyr. Oh, well.
That's interesting.
So
I didn't know any of that. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, wait, Those are the 5
Those-
gold coins and the 3 gold toothpicks we got in the cabin site in 1982.
Wow.
And they didn't say nothing. We picked up hundreds of silver coins. I better not say any more. John Brandon will be mad at me.
Hey, Fizz.
That's it. Yeah. Anyway, that was my nicest artifact ever off the 1733 fleet. Oh, well, 1715 fleet can have happy days. Here's
Yeah.
here's a picture I took of Jack Haskins. There's 1,200 coins
Woo.
on that table.
Well, speaking of the 1715 fleet, we'll switch and talk a little bit about that particular um, event. You know, that's kind of the way that I kind of got involved back in this, as far as getting involved with a treasure salvage, company and being an investor.
Yeah.
It really started there with Doug Pope, which he sends his well wishes today. I was speaking to him with Amelia Research and Recovery. They had invited me down to be aboard the Polly Elba down in Jupiter when there were some things going on down there. And at that time, of course, I learned quite a bit about the 1715 fleet. And then Doug introduced me to my sweetheart, as I call him, Rex Stalker. And Rex and I became very, very close, and he's taught me so much about the 1715 fleet.
Well, if anybody knows it, it's him.
Yes, and I spent a lot of time in Sebastian over the last almost 3 years, just going down and plundering around on the beaches and working my metal detector. And Rex would send me out, and I would come back, and we'd meet at Vic's Pizza, and we'd go over, and he'd look at all my stuff that I'd bring back, and he'd say, well, this could possibly be, and I would be very, very excited. But in the meantime, as it would have it, I did a lot of research and really found that one of the things that I wanted to do was be a part of, a company that I really felt like in my retirement days I could be a part of. And that's where I got hooked up with Maritime Research and Recovery with Danny Porter. And he also sends his well wishes. And I really, not doting on them, but I really think they're a very hardworking team, and we won't.
Well, you better believe it. Nobody works harder than Danny Porter.
I tell you,
I know him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be able to be a part of being an investor with them and watching them. I've learned an awful lot. But going back to the 1715 fleet and being out there a little bit with them, particularly the last couple of years, it's exciting to see that there are things still being brought up. I know if you go to the website, people out there are interested. It's MRR Online. You can see some of the things that they've been bringing up. Matter of fact, this was a piece of the Kangsai porcelain that was brought up that I just love. Jonah Martinez had brought this up actually about 5 or 6 years ago. And then last year I had this around my neck on the Capitana, and I'll be darned if we didn't bring up a shard of it that day, the exact pattern. So those are really exciting things, for me. And I know you being out there on that 1715 fleet, elaborate, on that particular wreck site with the Real 8 company and how you were involved with Kip and that kind of thing. That'd be wonderful.
Well, I wasn't involved way back when Kip Wagner. I got my first year on the fleet was 1980 with D.L. Cheney. Of course, I had been working for 6 years over in the Gulf of Mexico, and then I finally realized that I needed to go where the people were. Earlier I mentioned the research vessel Wasp, which when DL died, it just kind of fell to me. And I ran that boat for 18 years, and that boat paid for itself 200 times. There's a picture of it. You can see the blower. That's me driving, and the dive flag's up. I lost it in 1996. down on Great Inagua, as far down in the Bahamas as you can get. Hurricane Lily came through, and I had 3 boats at the time, 2 of them totally destroyed, the Wasp being one of them. What's left of her is scattered on that rocky shoreline there on the north side of the island. But the hurricane's a good way for a treasure boat to go out, I guess, especially one that paid for itself more than 200 times. Back to the 1733 fleet, and like I was saying, I wish I'd have got Art to sign all them little maps he drew for me. And Art's last treasure hunt was to a wreck called the Genovese, sank in the year 1730 out on Pedro Shoals. It's spelled Pedro, but they pronounce it Pedro. I don't know why. And it's 90 miles south of Kingston, Jamaica. And Art said I was going on that trip with him and Jack Haskins. And unfortunately, at the last minute, he bumped me off for somebody else, but that's okay, because when you're putting a big, long, expensive trip together, you just need to be sure of who you got. And I realized that at the time, and there's been a couple of times I've put a big trip together, like going to the Conception.
Yes.
Wow,
Let's talk about that.
Oh man, it's a nightmare and it's a pleasant dream. Everything happened, bad and good. It all happened.
Elaborate on some of that for us. Some of that good.
Yeah. This, of course, is one I saved for myself. I've got
a girl can never have too many treasure coins. Let's see.
There's a Conception 8.
Put that right up there.
Here's one that's wrapped in pretty heavy gold.
Got any markings on the Acer markings on the back?
Oh yeah, it's grade 1. You just need to probably hold it, but yeah, that's pretty coin. I actually had to get these from my backers, because the ones I had for myself, they left years ago. And so anytime somebody asks me to get them a Conception coin, I have to call up one of my backers, because they're well-off people and they didn't have to sell them. They were happy to get them. That was a great trip. The backers did, they did more than double what they put in. And we had big parties and everything. It was a great trip. The Conception is still sitting there with a lot of stuff on it. The problem is there's not really what you call international waters anymore. There is in the books and the legalities and everything, but every offshore reef in the whole world, is owned by some politician somewhere. There's a bunch of offshore reefs that Colombia says they own, and Honduras said they own the same ones. They almost go to war over them.
For newcomers who might be listening, describe where the Conception is.
Yes, well, it sank in 1641, and there's an area called Silver Shoals or Silver Shoals Reef. It's approximately 40 square miles. It's a big one. Closest point of land, 75 miles. So it's an offshore reef, 75 miles. And that is we based in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. Now, way back when they discovered there's treasure on Silver Shoals, the Dominican Republic said, well, we own that. Nobody legally owns it. No, but they said they did, and you didn't want them to shoot you if you were out there. So we did a deal with them. Before that, Turks and Caicos said, we own Silver Shoals Reef because they're 75 miles from it. The two closest countries. They both sent gunboats out there. However, the Dominican Republic sent a bigger gunboat, so Turks and Caicos ran back home, and that's how they settled that. But legitimately, nobody owns those offshore, but you don't dare go out there because they'll shoot you. So you make a deal with the politicians. I did. I'm happy with it. We made an agreement. They got their share. I got mine, and I came home with a lot of treasure. But just organizing that,
How long did you spend working? How long did you spend working that site?
2 months. And let me tell you the good part. Closest land is 75 miles. I drug my mattress out on the back deck, and every night I laid on the back deck looking up at the sky. It's so there's not millions of stars, there's billions
of stars, and you had a comfortable mattress.
That's right. What a sight that was. And I actually saw things moving around up there, and I'm not going to say what I thought they were, but
I'm sure that things. Yeah, I'm sure you did.
And I'd love to go back.
Well, you never know.
Maybe so. There's a story about the missing gold from the conception.
Tell that story. Tell that story for people who don't know it.
Yeah, well, the conception, by the time it got down to where Silver Shoals is, the rudder was gone, the sails were broke, they had no control, they were wherever way the wind was blowing them, that's how they had to go. And they got into Silver Shoals Reef, 40 square miles, and they pinballed in there until they come to rest on top of this one reef. Now, the captain and the navigator were arguing over where they were and what they should do, but the people are actually you're standing in water like maybe it's ankle deep. Most of those reef heads are awash at low tide. The Spanish call that the abrojos, meaning keep your eyes open, very dangerous. And but the tide comes and goes, and the people are standing in the water. Nobody wants to die. They're building rafts out of timbers. They're tearing off the ship. And so now, what's the captain going to do with the gold? The gold's in the captain's cabin, and he has it. He cannot, he'd be dumb to leave it there because pirates the Spanish considered everybody a pirate, not just the regular pirates, but the Dutch, the French, the English, they're all pirates.
And all the privateers too.
Yes, that's correct. So what's he going to do? Because those people standing in the water are not going to let him load treasure on the raft and take off. Not going to happen. I think he cleverly hid the gold. The silver was, less important. Like today, the silver is less important. And I believe he hid it somewhere nearby. And you're not going to believe this, but I believe I know where it is because I had every intention of going back. I found an area where it was like scooped out a big area. And then ballast rocks were laid in there like a cobblestone street. And that's the only area out there that looks like a cobblestone street. I think he put the gold in a hole. I think he put ballast. What else would you have to cover it with?
That's right.
Ballast, yes. Now, there's thousands of other ballast rocks out there, but they're just helter-skelter. This small area, and I'd say it's about twice as big as your dining room table. And there those, I found it the last day out there. The metal detector hits, but your metal detector is going to hit on ballast probably anyway, a good percentage of it. So my intention was, this is the first place we'll come back to when my contract was 2 years. Unfortunately, they canceled my contract because we did too good after they had been told they're not going to find nothing. There's no treasure out there. And we're coming back with thousands of coins. We're coming back with great artifacts.
You got one in that hat.
We had this bronze bell came from there. Yeah, and that came off of a French salvage vessel about 1680. It was trying to salvage the Conception, but unfortunately they sank. Another highlight, I got to be in a movie with Lloyd Bridges.
Oh.
And did we talk about diving? And I said, you know something? I said, a movie about a treasure hunting, a treasure diving movie about Art McKee would be the best thing ever. I know it'd be a box office hit. And he said to me, he said, who's Art McKee? And I said, Mike Nelson doesn't know Art McKee. Now, I did say that. And then I explained, and you know, he was about the same height as Art, and look at his hair. That's how Art kept his hair. If them two guys were standing next to each other.
They look like twins.
Well, at least brothers.
Brothers, yeah.
And Lloyd Bridges, actually, he signed my big 8x10 picture. He said, Carl, happy and safe diving, Mike Nelson.
Mike Nelson. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but it would have been fun. It still could be, but you know, maybe one of his sons could do the
pull it off.
Yeah. And anyway, I wrote a lot about that in Uncharted Waters, the whole story. And Lloyd Bridges was just, what a gentleman. On his days off, he showed up on the set and he'd shake hands, he'd sign autographs. A great PR man, and he didn't have to be there. It was his day off. Anyway, I'd
be out there because he loved it.
Yeah, I can't say enough nice things about Lloyd Bridges.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So anyway, that was that story.
That was a good story. That's
it's a
right.
Great story. I'm lucky. Mike Nelson.
Exactly. And you know, one of the things that we were talking about that I recalled, you know, as a child, you know, we didn't have the internet and all this, you know, we had little books and long playing records. And we were talking about how I would sit in front of my little record player and play 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in like 1965. And, you know, my imagination went wild because all we had was the front and the back cover of the album.
That was Kirk Douglas.
That's right. Now, one of the things I'm excited about, and I want to shift over to talk about, is your writing. Now, you've written 3 books, but now you're doing audio and you're doing the reading.
Yeah, well, that's true. I just finished reading a recording, Uncharted Waters, which is my first book, co-authored by Sam Milner. And to tell you the truth, Sam did a lot more work there than I did. I mean, Sam had written, mostly he makes his living by playing and singing in the bars between Key West and North Carolina. But then he started writing books, and he probably got 20 out now. and he wrote treasure song. He has an album out of treasure songs, which you need. I've got, so I'll be happy to send you one. In fact, he asked me once, he said, Fizz, you got kind of a unique voice. Why don't you record with me?
Absolutely.
Go in the studio and record. And I said, Sam, if you let me sing with you, you'll never work in this town again. And he hasn't. That was
And
down
he
in
hasn't.
Isla, that was in Isla Morada.
Oh gosh.
Wait,
Oh.
here's myself and Art McKee. You can see I was a bit younger, and today I started dyeing my hair white to give me a more mature look.
Do I hear Scooter back there?
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, honey. Oh gosh.
So
well, I'm anxious to get a copy of the audio readings of these books. I think they're going to be just fabulous to hear you read those.
Yeah, I'm 2/3 of the way past Man Overboard. That'll be done in the next couple of days, and then in fact, Mark Littleton, he's actually the brains of the outfit. It's like 8 hours. So he said, man, that's going to be a long distance listening to you. And I said, those lucky people.
Hey, I'm going to binge listen. You know, I mean, people sit and binge watch on YouTube. I'm like, let's binge listen to Fizz. I can do that. I have no problem with that.
Well, we're doing it. Of course, we'll all be back on the fleet sometime next month.
Oh, that's good. I mean, you know, the weather that we've been having has been, I mean, we hadn't had any weather until just today and yesterday and the day before. But
yes.
Last couple of years, it's been a little tough out there. But
it has been. In fact, I run a little house over there of a lady who was born and raised there. And she said there 2 years, and last year said, I've lived here all my life, and this is the worst summers we've ever had. And I said, thank you.
But, well, hopefully we'll be heading in the right direction. We all need a break, especially after COVID. We all need to get out and start hunting and having a good time again. Hey, shifting our conversation, you know, just my love of the 1622 fleet, you know, and Mel Fisher, I got to tell you, you know, he really was, you know, the first real treasure hunter that I had particularly heard of when I was, you know, getting into this really back in the 80s, the early 80s, and being a flight attendant out there flying around. And, you know, I knew he was out there hunting and pecking and trying to find the Nuestra Senora de Atocha and the Margarita. And, you know, I remember when they found the mother lode, I was so excited, and I couldn't wait to get on a plane from Charlotte to Key West to go down and see what was going on. Talk about your relationship with Mel and what you did with the 1622 fleet.
Yeah, well, that was in July of '85, and then 2010, I somehow or another got Mel Fisher the Lifetime Achievement Award. And of course, that's always it's a fun time in Key West at that particular time. And I think Taffy told me that she said, well, before you get this award, you have to tell a Mel story that's never been told before. And I said, you know, a lot of people be stumped, but I said, it's funny you should say that because I just happened to have one. Art McKee told me a Mel story, and this was perfect because nobody had ever heard it before. You know, Art went up there to help, and him and Mel were out diving and picking up coins. And as it was, Mel was running the boat, and Art McKee was on the bottom picking up coins. And all of a sudden, they blew, I guess, into an old rotten box, And Art said coins were just flying everywhere. That was all over there, everywhere. So he got back to the ladder and he pulled himself up and he said, Mel, shut her down, shut her down. And Mel shut it down real quick. And he walks back to and looks down at Art on the ladder. He said, what is it? And Art said, there's coins blowing all over the place down here. And Mel said, well, are they gold or silver? And Art said, well, they're silver. And Mel said, oh, the hell with it. And he cranked the blower up again.
Crank it back up again. Oh.
And that's how I got my Lifetime Achievement Award, by repeating an Art McKee story.
Oh, golly.
Here's another picture.
Oh, look at all that ballast. What?
Those are 88 bronze cannonballs.
Oh, those are cannonballs. Yeah, sorry.
Bronze cannonballs.
Bronze. Yeah, put that up against the screen there again. Wow.
88 of them. They were the first ones to be found. So if you read that stuff on the internet about that Capitana in Ecuador finding bronze, that's not so. We got these back in 1988. And I did work that Capitana down in Ecuador besides that too. So anyway, this was from Panama. And Jack and I, Duke Long, do you happen to remember Duke Long, or do you know who he was?
No.
That's Duke Long right there. We're looking at those bronze cannonballs. And nobody could figure out why would they make bronze cannonballs. You want to know why, or do we have enough time to go into it?
Got plenty of time. I want to know about it.
Yeah, well, the Spanish galleon sailing was always running behind. They were always running late. And so in this case, on the 1631 San Josef, and you can ask Danny about that. He and I were down there. I don't remember how long ago that was, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I don't know. But in any case, in 1988 is when we got these bronze cannonballs. Jack and I were there in 88 and 89. But they were running behind. So the Captain General goes to the foundry and he tells the guys working in the foundry, he said, well, you have to cast the bronze anyway, although it probably would have been into big bars, and you have to cast cannonballs. So I'm going to cut your work time in half. You take that bronze and you cast them into cannonballs, and we might get out of here on time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he said, look, if I have to shoot them, I'll shoot them. I don't think the king's going to be mad about that.
Not a bit, not a bit. Oh gosh, that's great.
And they had cannonballs cut in half. It was called chain shot, a variation of bar shot. Here's one. That's a half.
Oh yeah, yeah.
As far as I know.
Hold it back up there. Oh yeah,
yeah. Them holes.
Yeah.
That's where a piece of chain went in those holes. But the chain long since rotted away. And this is now, of course, the other half, you stick it together and they're a round ball. You put it down the cannon. When you shoot it, it opens up and it whoo, whoo.
Woo, 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 woo. Yeah.
This was used. I think the Dutch invented those, and those were used to tear up the sail and the riggings. Yeah. But if you got hit with it, look out. And nobody knows I got this because it's illegitimate. And I didn't steal it. When we cleaned our buckets out after we got back to the States, this was down in the bottom of the dirty bucket.
Oh, wow. Great story.
I thought you'd like it. I hope they bought
into that one. Cheers to there you go.
I'll deny it.
I'll deny it every time. Hey, talk about you've been out there a good while, and diving and uh, being in and out of the water, and keeping up with our health and everything. You've been through a lot with your health, and you're still out there getting it just as hard as you can go. Talk about your health and how you've been a cancer survivor. I love that.
Yeah, well, I've had like 6 primaries, and I remember after I had the first couple, the Cancer Society contacted me, and so they wanted me to help raise funds for cancer. And I thought, well, okay, why not? And one time I even went around putting envelopes in mailboxes in the neighborhood. And um, I emceed one of those walkathons or whatever it is that one year in the Keys. We raised $38,000.
Oh yeah.
I've donated coins and things for auctions and stuff like that. And I usually tell a joke about it had been cheaper to die, but but I didn't. And it's like I said, Scooter goes to all the doctor visits, and basically that's pretty much why I'm still here.
Well, she's a
Ask her,
wonderful.
my regular doctor. In fact, I had 4 primaries, and my regular family doctor said, a good friend of mine, he said, I was in medical school with him. He specializes in cancer. Do you mind if I send him your records? And I said, no, go ahead. A specialist opinion? Sure, I'd like to hear it. And the guy called him up and said, nobody survives 4 primaries. I'll bet his wife's a nurse. And there you have it.
There you have it. Hey, we were talking about just detecting, and we've got a lot of people watching that they're new to listening to treasure hunting stories and everything, and it's such hard work. Oh my gosh, just to get out there. People don't realize they think that all this treasure that comes up, you just go out there and you're finding it. It takes just years to locate and run mags and all that. But getting under the water and blowing holes and going down and being very methodical about it. Talk to me about, because I have my own metal detector of choice that I particularly prefer, and I know that you do too. And if I'm not mistaken, you've really done a lot of research with Fisher, and that JW Fisher Pulse 8X is just a great underwater detector. Talk about that and how you really have enjoyed that over the years and being a part of what it's all about.
Sure. Pulse induction metal detecting came out, I think, about in the late 70s. And Jack Haskins was probably the best metal detectorist I've ever been around. And he and I, whenever we were home in the Keys, we'd go out together quite a bit. And there was one wreck we had a lot of fun with. It's called the Iron Mast wreck, late 1800s. And when, of course, I found out later the name of it is the Star of the Sea. But we go out metal detecting there. Then Jack would go one way, I'd go the other, and we'd meet back in the boat. I'd have things, and Jack would have more. And I thought, well, he was just in a better place than I was. But when it happens every time, you have to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? No, that's Clint Eastwood. Yeah, what am I doing wrong? And so next time we go out, now Jack gears up, he drops over the side, and I just put my snorkel gear. I'm going to watch how Jack uses that machine. So now I'm snorkeling over top of him, but I think he died down there because he's not moving. And you have to have a time-lapse photography camera to see if Jack was moving. And there's a big secret right from Jack himself. You've got to go slow.
Oh, that's right.
Meticulous if you want to find that stuff. Yeah, if there's a cannonball 3 inches down, yes, it's going to blow your machine up. But you looking for them little coins way down it, especially if they're standing on edge. First gold coin I ever found was standing on edge down in the crack. But and anyway, that's it. And with a meter, Jack had several machines, but the meter part was where I got into it. I like the meter better. And the JW, people always say, well, what's the best metal detector? And I don't know what the best is, but I know what the best is for me. What I have I found thousands of coins with those. In fact, I went through in 1982, we got thrown off the 1715 fleet. So we went down, worked for Mel in Key West doing the mag surveys, the Tocha and Margarita site. But I got a dive on the Margarita site. So anyway, we take a day diving on the Margarita site. Now, just off to the south of the ballast mound is hard pan bottom with cracks. Now, there had been at least 1,000 treasure hunters already there ahead of me with metal detectors. But I went through that crack area and they were down in them cracks standing on edge.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm just telling you, I believe I can set that meter. Now, the thing is, if you got bone phones or you got earphones, you're going to look somewhere else and you're going to think that you're covering the ground, but you ain't. Why are you there if you can't give 100% concentration on that metal detector? Go home.
That's right.
Yeah.
Be slow, low to the ground.
That's right.
That's what I say. Get low.
And what I like about the JW model, now I had some Aquapulse in 1980 that had a big fat meter on it, and that was butt kicking machine.
Yeah.
But with the JW Fisher, and you get it, and you have to adjust that null. You got to set it just right. I'm somewhere around the number 1 on the meter. Mm-hmm. Now, you might set it a little squirrely where you'll get a false hit once in a while. But all you got to do to check that really fast, what the JW Fisher has 3 settings. You don't need all 3. I've tried to tell them that you only need the high, because when you get a hit, turn that loop up on edge like this, because the peripheral vision is a lot less than the up and down mode. I found thousands of coins doing it, thousands of them. So to me, that's what I do.
That's the way to go.
Yeah. Although the day I snorkeled over Jack and was watching it, I said, he ain't moved. He's dead. I better snorkel down and drag his butt to the surface or something. And then time-lapse photography will show you how to metal detect like Jack Haskins. Anyway, that's what I do.
Yeah, I tell you, a lot of these folks on the beach, I think that's one of the things that when I teach these kids out here on the beach and adults too, is, keep that metal detector. You can see where I'm just scraping the sand,
Yeah.
Slowly, I drag my feet and work it really slow, and that's what helps. Got to do what you got to do. Let's talk about scuba wise. You teach a lot of
Yeah.
people how to do a lot of things through Scuba Wise, your business. Let's talk about that.
Well, that's good because Scuba Wise, I guess I thought about that maybe 3 years ago, and that one movie came out about a bucket list. I forget about it, but bucket list became a popular expression.
Yeah, wasn't that like Morgan Freeman and
Yeah,
oh gosh,
yeah,
the crazy guy? I mean, all of a
yeah.
sudden,
I know who you mean. Jack.
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, yeah, and I thought the guy, he came to me that every diver has a bucket list, and probably, because they might say, I want to go dive the Japanese World War II stuff in the Pacific or something. And I thought, my guess would be every scuba diver would like to dive on a Spanish galleon at least once. And so what we do on Scuba Wise, but Wise is spelled W-I-Z-E. ScubaWise.com is a website. Scuba Wise on Facebook. Basically, right now they're one-day seminars, and they're really fairly successful. And we're talking about maybe making them 2 or 3 days. I don't know, but right now, one day. And we have class in the morning, which I call everything you always wanted to know about treasure diving, but bring some questions because we can't possibly cover it all in one day. Brad Williamson and I will touch on, we think, mostly the important stuff, and bring questions, have questions and ask those. I'm to the point where I don't think you could ask me a question I couldn't answer. Does anybody remember Carl Clausen? That's a long story. I'll tell it sometime. Where Carl thought nobody could ask him a question he couldn't answer. He wrote that book called Gold Galleons and Archaeology with Bob Burgess. Bob's a friend of mine. Carl's a friend of mine, even though he's in prison for life. But I went to visit him in Okeechobee Correctional Institute. God bless America. It's good to have places like that. Them people scared me just visiting.
Yeah.
I mean, God bless that those killers are all in. That's anyway. But what I miss?
Oh, are you still tuned in there?
Yeah. Well, it's just I get asked that question. I do a lot of classes and lectures, and within Scuba Wise, Brad and I try to condense it into the important stuff.
That's right.
So,
and Scuba Wise, when y'all run those programs, tell the audience where that's done at.
Oh yeah, well, 1733 Fleet. My address is P.O. Box 1733, Tavernier. If you want to send me money or presents or anything, and please. And I also inherited Jack's P.O. Box 1733 in Isla Mirada, so I have them both. But so if diving on a Spanish galleon's on your bucket list, look up Scuba Wise, come and see us, because in the morning classes, in the afternoon we make 2 dives on 2 different 1733 sites. We've got a 12-foot cannon that landed on a coral head, and it's in the firing position. Yeah.
Wow.
In my opinion, that's the best photo op in the ocean. So look it up, call us up. We'll be happy to take you. We've had people come, several people have come back twice, and it's the same thing. It's not different. And some people have come back 3 times. One guy brought his father. Came back. One guy came back 3 times. He brought his father with him the 3rd time, a retired Border Patrol guy from El Paso, Texas. Funny guy, great guy. And he asked me ahead of time, he said, Captain Fizz, if I find a coin, can I keep it? And I said, don't mention that because, you know, we get in trouble with the Marine Patrol. So just don't, so Brad was watching him and I was with his son. His son, it was kind of rough that day, and the son, this was his third trip. He got seasick. So I took him back to the boat and, you know, over the side, want a sip of water, eat a piece of orange. And now I'm looking out for the bubbles for Brad and the retired Border Patrol. And all of a sudden, that Border Patrol comes out of the water and he's going, I found a coin, I found a coin. He's yelling it. Now I'm looking around for the Marine Patrol and, oh, Jesus Christ. And, so he swims to the boat. He hands it up to me. And now I'm looking at it. He said, it is a coin, isn't it, Captain Fizz? And I said, yes, sir, that's a coin. But I think when you clean it, you're going to find a picture of President Lincoln on there.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, he was tickled to death. And the last thing he said to me when they were leaving was, I can say I found a coin on a Spanish galleon. And I said, yeah, you can say that.
That's right. That's
anyway,
right.
We haven't had one complaint. It's great. Two good dives. And if you don't dive and you want to go, you can snorkel. Most of the time that Keys water is crystal clear and you can see more snorkeling than you do diving on the bottom anyway.
Well, I know I've had that trip planned twice, and due to some issues with family illness, you know, was having to cancel last year and the year before. But Fizz, I'm going to make it this year.
It's a deal.
And I like to have a good man diver beside me, spoon feeding me all the way.
Well, I just happen to know one, and he's good looking too.
I know. I like those older men too.
I'm the oldest guy on the fleet.
Hey, speaking of that, you know, one of the things that I'm really pleased with is that you get out there and do these interviews, because, you know, we've lost a lot of our guys over the past year that have been in the industry, and you know, it's no joke that, you know, we're all aging, and to be able to share what you have done, your history is a legacy for you. And I know I've been talking to some of the other folks that are good friends with me, and you know, I'm really hoping that I can get. I've talked to Rex today, and I was like, Rex, please do an interview. I mean, I hate to even talk to him because it's so private. But he said, well, I'll think about that. You know, it doesn't take much to twist your arm, and I really thank you for, you know, coming out and doing these interviews, because it's really important to the young people of our generation, and that's what I wanted to find out from you. If you had something that you wanted to say to the young folks out there that are, you know, dreamers like we are, and even those folks like, you know, myself, who are in our retirement years, and you know, you want something wonderful to do, you know, how would you encourage them?
I'd still say, you know, take up metal detecting as a hobby. I used to have television shows, telemarketing shows on the satellite networks way back when it first started. And I sold metal detectors, but I told everybody, I said, don't buy this if you're going to stick it in the closet and not use it. I said, it's great, even health-wise. You're going to go outside, you're going to be walking around, you're going to be bending over, and you might, who knows, you might dig up something valuable. Everybody that digs up everything, I encourage all those, like on Facebook, when somebody puts a picture of, I found this spoon, and I'll write on there, I put score in great big letters. This will make them feel good. You know, it ain't a gold coin, and it's not going to be your retirement, but he found that spoon and he was happy to get it. And anyway, get that. get out and looking. And you never know. You never know that one hit on the 1715 fleet, and you can still metal detect a lot of the beach area. I know they're having problems, but it's like 30 miles long, and I've been on every. And believe I'm telling you the truth, it's possible to find that one coin that will bring you $1 million at auction. There's been 2 Charles II Royals picked up on the fleet. Carl Clausen told me about one of them when he was the marine archaeologist in charge. The assayer didn't make those royal dies only to punch 2 coins. Somewhere there's that Charles II, that one rare date. It might be 1697, $1 million.
Well, I think that's something that we can leave them with, and to be dreaming. I know when I was wanting to head back to my little honey hole, and I was living out in Arkansas, and I couldn't wait to get back to my honey hole. I dreamt of that, and got on the plane and went back, and sure as the world, bam. Mm-hmm.
My birthday's coming.
Yeah, and then sure as the world, everybody's always, and it's always good when you got somebody with you when you find these coins.
I remember I dropped that.
Did you drop that one?
Yeah, that was, thank you for finding it for me.
Hey, you come get it. Hey, listen, I think it's been just an absolute joy to have you on today. We're gonna hold off on talking about those damn bureaucrats on this go round, because what I want to do is I want to talk about a lot of the things that really are difficult for us. We'll keep this show on the lighter side, and we're going to come back and have another get together really soon, and it's going to be pretty sticky, so everybody's going to want to come out and jump in on checking us out, and we'll save that for another time. But it's been a joy to have you on board. We know now we can get on this darn split screen thing and make it happen, and we'll see if we can't even add a third person. I'd like to add another person in here to banter back and forth with you, particularly on the bureaucrat, about the bureaucrats and the admiralty laws and all these kind of things that are the trouble with treasure. So we'll save that. But again, thank you so much for joining me, Carl, on Candy's Treasure Chest, and I wish you and bid you a good day, mate. And the next time I see you, I'm going to bring you a bottle of my new wine.
Perfect. Let's do that.
Let's do that. We'll crack
I
a
like
bottle.
it.
I'm not a rum drinker as Johnny Ringo, who has the Code Rum. I'm going to give him a plug for Code Rum Company. I don't drink his rum, but I damn sure eat his rum cakes.
So would I. He's got that hot sauce out too. I told him to send me a case.
Yeah, well, has he not sent you a case of hot sauce yet?
Yeah, I am. No, he's ignoring me.
Oh, well, I'm going to get on him as soon as I click this video and post it to Facebook. I'm going to tell him he needs to watch it and get your case of hot sauce. And he needs to send me a case of cinnamon rum cakes so I can put ice cream on them.
Well, that sounds good.
It is. Well, Carl, from the Pirate Porch here in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, to your Pirate Porch down in Tampa, right?
Yeah, today, that's right.
I bid you a good day and good night, sir.
Thank you, Candy. Be seeing you.
We'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody. Okay.